Saltzman's canceled. Who cares what Lizzie Saltzman thinks?
You're a terrible sister.
Keeping clear girls like you.
Hotter than Lizzie. Lizzie. I spent a lot of time bettering myself over the summer, and I need you all to rise to my level. Now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Hizzie Diaries podcast, where we talk about all things Hizzie and legacies, but also sometimes the rest of the TBDU, which we'll save for later on in the season, maybe, because I haven't decided if I'm going to do seasons for the Hizzie Diaries or not. But if I do, it'll probably be either later this season or once I'm done with legacies as a whole. But welcome back, everyone. I'm so glad you guys loved the last episode. It makes me so happy seeing all you guys' support. And it just, like, I cried so many times last week after the episode release because everyone was so supportive, especially the first day. I saw so many people putting it on their IG stories and their notes, and it's just, oh my god. My heart was exploding that day. And honestly, beyond that, everyone is just so supportive, and I love all of you. But today's not about me. Today is about Lizzie Saltzman. Tomorrow is her birthday, aka March 15th. So I figured it would be a great time to make this episode all about Lizzie and my thoughts and opinions about her. And just, I just feel like she deserves this. I feel like Lizzie, oh my god, and I'm going to bring this up later, but I feel like if Lizzie saw how many people loved her and her character and everything she does, I feel like she would feel a lot more secure with herself and a lot happier, which we'll get into later because I have a whole list of topics to talk about. So, first things first, I want to talk about Lizzie Saltzman in the very first episode, the pilot episode. I was just rewatching the scene, and I will play it for you guys right now. So, it'll start playing in a few seconds, just so you're aware. It doesn't catch you off guard or anything.
Dad, do you think I'm broken?
Of course not. I think your biological mother's crazy-ass witch ancestors left you with a legacy of darkness that you have to work through.
But Josie doesn't have freakouts.
Josie spends a lot of time worrying about other people's happiness. It's a supernatural phenomenon called codependency. And I'm pretty sure she got it from my side of the family.
I don't ever want to hurt anybody.
I know that, honey.
In this scene, I realized that Lizzie feels like after her breakdown in, I think it was the school kitchen, that Lizzie feels so, like, she feels horrible about her episodes. And I feel, and as a psych major, because a lot of you don't know that I'm a psychology major, I genuinely don't think the way that she beats herself up about her episodes helps her in any way. But I also think that it's not entirely her fault the way she feels about herself, because everyone around her is like, oh, you're crazy. You're not a good person. These episodes are making you worse. Just a whole bunch of ableist shit, to be honest. Because I personally feel like that is genuinely ableist, especially with how hard she tries not to get herself in those states. But she can't really control her emotions, especially in season 1. Which is like the whole point of her disorder. However, I do think that she does not have bipolar disorder, and I think that she has BPD, which a lot of people do agree with, and we can go into that in a little bit. But I want to talk about how, oh my god, I just thinking about Lizzie in the very first episode. She was so small. She was a literal baby. But anyways, so Lizzie's never really had anyone around her to assure her that her episodes were like, I mean, of course they can be like, oh, your episodes are normal and blah 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 blah, because I mean, it obviously it's self-explanatory, but she's never really had anyone to like make herself feel better about like after it happens. You know what I mean? Like no one was ever really there to like sit there with her. And she talks about this in season 4 a little bit when she goes how she's never really felt loved before, which, oh my god, that's so heartbreaking. But anyways, and that's relevant because when you don't feel love, you, especially with me, because I suffered through a similar situation that she did, but when you don't feel loved and when you feel like you're in a position where you're not cared for and you feel neglected and you feel all these other things that that might be triggers for your episodes, especially for me, it isn't very, it doesn't help, especially with somebody struggling so much and with everyone telling her that she's crazy, especially the school, like with the way the school treated her, even after everything that she tried to do for them. All Lizzie ever wanted to be was a hero, and I think it's crazy because I'm sure you guys have listened to Anti or Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift, and I feel like that episode, that song is so her, which is crazy. Sorry, excuse me. Which is crazy because she has always wanted to be a hero, and in the entirety of season 1, she tries so hard to be that, but no one ever really sees her as a hero, and they just kind of see her not even as the villain, but as the chaos. Like, she's not the hero, she's not the villain, but she's just the chaos in the midst of everything. Like, if she didn't cause it, she's either in it. Like, that's how the school and even her own family views her, which I have my own take with Lizzie and Josie's relationship, which we'll get into in a little bit. But as I was saying, they don't see her as a person, they just kind of see her as some kind of mess, and it's very irritating, especially when you think about how the fandom treats her. It's no better than how they treat Lizzie in the actual show, because I've seen so many people weaponize Lizzie's disorder to make her seem like, oh, she wants to be this way because she just wants to be, like, this is her fault. And Josie was right when she said that Lizzie shouldn't be refusing to take her meds despite how they were making her feel, which is absolutely crazy. You know what I mean? Like, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. But it's so dehumanizing and absolutely insane, because if you think about it, these are the exact same people complaining about how the school treated Hope when she wasn't in her right state of mind, or when she wasn't like being a hero, because she was always being a hero, but the times where she wasn't, the school kind of just like turned against her so fast, and people would complain about that. But they also don't keep the same energy for Lizzie, and I get that a lot of people prefer Hope and Josie over Lizzie, and I get that. But at the end of the day, they both effed up a whole lot more than Lizzie ever did. Lizzie's mistakes were either triggered by something or someone else, or actually that's almost always the case. Not that I'm really thinking about it, but a lot of the times it wasn't really her fault. And I don't mean that in like a biased way, but to be honest, if we were in Lizzie Saltzman's shoes and we had to deal with that on a daily basis, like with her family, with her school, even with Hope sometimes, and the people around her, like, it's just like, if I had to deal with that, I would have done worse. If anything, Lizzie Saltzman is better than me. And Lizzie was the only one who hadn't went dark in the entire 4 seasons. I mean, up until like season 4. But in the first 3 seasons, Lizzie never went dark. She still kept trying to be a hero, even if she came to the conclusion that that wasn't the role that she was going to ever be in, which is kind of sad because she just kind of wanted... I mean, I feel like the only reason she ever wanted to be a hero was because she wanted to be loved, which now I really want to get into Lizzie Saltzman saying in season 4 how Hope and Landon had something that she never really had, which is love. And I don't think Lizzie meant that in just a romantic way. I think she meant that in general, because everyone around her, they never really loved her without feeling like they were walking over, like stepping over eggshells. You know what I mean? They never fully loved her, because they kept her kind of like at an arm's length. They kept her as like, oh, like she has too many episodes, she gets triggered too easily, like she's too sensitive, blah 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 blah, all these, you know, very fucked up things that they really kept her like an arm's length. And it probably didn't, I mean, it definitely did not help with her episodes whatsoever. Like, I genuinely think that only made matters worse for her, because then she feels even worse about herself because everyone feels that way about her, you know? And it's so sad, because even at the very end of Legacies, like, as the show came to a close, she never got that. She never got that kind of love. She got very close to it with Hope, but the show ended before that could even go anywhere, which is absolutely insane. But that's just so heartbreaking, especially for those who might relate to her, because I know I do a lot. Like, it's very sad to see how the writers handled her character development and her ending. Honestly, I get the show got canceled, but I genuinely think they had the time to give her a proper ending and not put her with some man and associate that as her happy ending, when I kind of want to get into Mizzie now. But I think that MG, I think the idea of him is what Lizzie liked. I don't think she actually liked him. Even in season 2, when she kissed him, she was like, this is for you, not for me. Like, she always does things for other people more than she ever does things for herself, which is crazy, because people are always like, oh, Lizzie is so selfish, blah, 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 blah. But, like, if anyone came to her with a problem, especially Josie, if Josie ever came to Lizzie with a problem, Lizzie tried to fix it. Did they argue about it? Rarely. But when they did, Lizzie always came to the conclusion, she was like, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to try to get help, blah, 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 whatever. Lizzie was a fixer. She always tried to fix things. Kind of just like how Hope always tries to fix things too. Which is why I think Hope is like her ideal love interest. And I genuinely feel like MG wasn't exactly the best love interest for her. I really loved MG with Caleb's sister, I think it was. I loved their relationship. I loved their dynamic. I didn't like him with Alyssa. I feel like MG has a thing for mean girls, but I don't think he was meant to end up with one, because he wasn't, you know, there are just some men who can fit that role of like a golden retriever boyfriend with a hot mean girlfriend, you know what I mean? And I feel like MG could have pulled it off, but I just, it wasn't working. Both ships with him and Alyssa and him and Lizzie, it just felt so wrong. Like, it just felt like the writers were just trying to cook something up, and then they just messed up the entire, like, the entire recipe. But, oh Lord. Anyways, as I was saying, MG is like an ideal partner. He's nice, he's considerate, he genuinely tries to understand Lizzie, But I don't think they were ever meant to be more than just best friends. I feel like what Lizzie needed wasn't a relationship, but a best friend. A best friend who could care for her even when things got rough, or when things got crazy, when things felt like they weren't ever going to get better. I feel like she needed someone by her side to give her more security internally and kind of be like a rock for her. Because, and we're going to get into Josie for a little bit really quick. Josie is her own person too. She had her own issues that she needed to work through, but she needed to feel like she was needed in order to be comfortable with herself and to avoid her own problems, which wasn't necessarily a good thing, because not only did she make problems for herself, she also made problems for Lizzie, because this ties into the whole me thinking that she has BPD instead of BD. Because Lizzie, like, when you, especially for anyone, honestly, who struggles with any kind of mental disorder, when you have a person who you constantly rely on, especially if they're like allowing you, and honestly kind of not necessarily making you, but like when you constantly rely on them and they just randomly decide, oh, this isn't healthy, and then they just like rip apart the foundation instead of baby steps, you know, because any therapist will tell you that having that kind of foundation just, also I just popped my finger, so ignore that, but having that kind of situation where your foundation is just ripped apart after like years of living on top of it, it's not good for anyone who's struggling with a mental disorder, especially with anyone who has bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder. Those types of situations can really F up a character. And we saw that in season 4, where Josie was more hyperfixated on fixing the situation when Hope killed Alaric and stuff like that. And then Lizzie also losing Alaric and Caroline being on the other side of the freaking world. Like, she spiraled. Like, she basically spiraled. It wasn't healthy for her, and it wasn't good for her in any way. And it really bothers me because although I like Josie, I don't like how quick she was to just like put Lizzie in the therapy box instead of taking her to actual therapy, when we've known and seen multiple times that therapy box helps absolutely no one. Like, Josie, which is crazy because Josie had a psychological break in the therapy box because of it. Like, I mean, not because of it, but it was triggered in the box. And then she puts Lizzie in the box in season 4 where Lizzie is spiraling, which is absolutely crazy. And oh Lord. But anyways, that's not Josie slander. That's just like, you can tell that there's no parents around because of these types of situations and how bad the writers are. Because what makes you think that that's gonna work? Especially when the therapy box has proven multiple times to not be very helpful in the therapy department, which completely defeats the whole purpose. But we're not gonna get into that. Anyways, as I was saying, I don't even know where I was going with that now. Oh, right. So having that kind of foundation ripped off, like absolutely like demolished, like torn apart, it just like it obviously is going to make Lizzie spiral. Any therapist can tell you that. Any psychiatrist, anybody can tell you that. It's going to make her spiral. Like, she did not have any coping mechanisms to rely on that were healthy, because she was never prepared for that situation. Alaric and Josie, I mean, I feel like Caroline would have never done this, but we also don't know because she's on the other side of the world, which is a writer problem, not necessarily a Caroline problem, because, you know, that's not her fault. I mean, it technically is because it's canon in the show, but like, you know what I mean? Anyways, besides the point. So, as I was saying, Alaric and Josie, they never really Like, honestly, it wasn't really Josie's responsibility. It's Alaric's responsibility because he's a parent. But with the way Josie had Lizzie rely on her, it feels like she should have done things a lot differently. But I try not to hold her, like, on such a high pedestal because she's still the same. Like, they're twins. They're the same age. Like, they both have their own problems. They're both struggling. That it's very, like, you know, like, there are things that it's just like, oh, it all ties back to Alaric. You know what I mean? But anyways, as I was saying, I still think that they both should have recognized that they needed to help Lizzie be more independent and get an actual therapist or psychiatrist who actually works and understands Lizzie, which I don't think would have ever happened because the writers don't know how to even write a fucking psychological assessment, I don't know if I ever actually read it out loud. I read it in the original episode and then I deleted it. But anyways, I think that's what happened. But anyways, the writers are so bad. And I don't know why they even bothered to make Lizzie, to write Lizzie as a character with bipolar disorder in the first place. They didn't even know how to write it. I love how it's been like 20 minutes of me talking about that specific thing and not even getting into the other subjects. This is how you know it's going to be a long episode. But anyways, Legacies writers, when I find you, I'm just kidding, sort of. Anyways, a lot of the times, it really wasn't a lot of Lizzie's fault. It was mostly Alaric's fault, and we see this as a reoccurring theme with also how he treats the other students, and I just think it's so bizarre because it's like, how did they let him be headmaster for so long? Like, how was he principal for so long? I need to know. How? Why? Like, I feel like he went against a whole lot of regulations. I feel like I can't English right now, but anyways, I feel like he was just he should not. How did he even have the credentials in the first place? That man, he needs to be behind bars. He needs to be behind bars. He needs to get his credentials revoked. Anyways, we're gonna move on because I feel like I'm going to keep losing my mind if we keep talking about this specific subject. So let's move on, guys. You guys ready? We got more things to talk about. Let's see. Ooh. Something that I really want to talk about. We're going to talk about Steph and Lizzie really quick because I have a bone to pick with Legacies writers. I don't understand how they wrote Stefan's character in Legacies. But, obviously he's dead. He's, you couldn't see me, but I did the little, I'm not even going to try to describe that because I can't. But he's, he gone. He's dead. He's quite literally ashes. But anyways, however, he was such a big part in the twins' life for years. He was there for most of their early childhood, and they never even mentioned Stefan as their stepfather, and it was just oh, he's just Stefan, you know what I mean? They never really acknowledged him. I feel like Lizzie would have been so emotionally attached to Stefan that she would have done a little something to honor his memory every year on the day he passed. And I feel like, honestly, what would have been really cool is if Stefan wrote a diary for the twins to read, little life lessons that they might need to know in case something ever happened to him. I feel like that is so something Stefan would do. Now that I'm saying it out loud, that would have been so helpful to the twins, and it would have been even more helpful if Lizzie discovered it while she was like arguing with Josie, and she just started reading it. You know that one argument where they had where like, you know, Josie kind of like snapped and didn't want to talk to Lizzie, and she was like, oh, she doesn't want to take her meds, blah, 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 whatever. I feel like it would have helped Lizzie so much if she would have came across that, especially with how much Stefan wrote in diaries. Like, I mean, the show was literally the Vampire Diaries. Like, it's literally about him, and him writing in diaries. But anyways, that would have helped Lizzie so much. Like, so much. And even having Caroline would have helped too. But, like, I feel they would have had this kind of father-daughter dynamic that it really hurts to think about the fact that she never really got to have that because Alaric was like, you know, deadbeat alcoholic vibes. But anyways, it's just like, that would have been so nice, and she really would have needed that, genuinely. And I think, and I really wish, and I don't even think Paul Wesley would even want to come back to Legacies. I mean, the show's already over, but like, I don't think he would have ever wanted to come back. But I feel like in the episode where, in season 4, where Lizzie is in the therapy box and she gets, I think they were guns, I can't remember, that had Damon and Stefan Salvatore. I feel like if she would have ran into Damon or Stefan, specifically Stefan in this scenario, that they could have had some kind of storyline that'll awaken those like father-daughter feelings that she had, where she feels like she kind of has an idea what a father should really look like, and help her realize her situation with Lark wasn't exactly normal or healthy. And we're going to get into something that I just remembered about Alaric in the very first episode. But I feel like that would have been so cool to see like Paul Wesley back as Stefan in season 4, especially with how many of the actors from the originals and the Vampire Diaries, but technically it was just the originals, but I mean they were in the Vampire Diaries too. But anyways, like with how many appearances they made in that season, I just feel like that would have been so good for Lizzie. I feel like season 4 was like, the show was starting to get so good, and then boom, cancellation. Especially season 4B. Like, I mean, besides the God storyline, which, you know, I actually kind of like, but I also think it's just like, oh, I don't know. I would have done better off with, like, actual supernaturals, you know? But anyways, like, I genuinely think that would have been such an interesting storyline. And, I mean, it'd be the only way that they can get Stefan back because, you know, he's dead. I don't know why I say it like that. But anyways, hold on, my phone is making noise. What's it called? Sorry. Anyways, I got distracted. But I want to say something about Alaric. And honestly, I want to deconstruct something that a lot of people have said in the fandom, where they think Lizzie is weak because she's just, you know, the weaker twin and she barely practices magic, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to include a scene, the same exact scene that I mentioned earlier, that I hope I added in if I don't forget when I'm editing. I want to include a part of the scene where Alaric says,
You know, I could just whip up a remedy with some herbs from the biolab.
No magic. Your magic gets you into these states, and I want your mind to get you out of them.
Where he says that using magic is what gets her into her episodes in the first place, which I don't think is true, because we would have seen that with other siphoners or other witches in general. But I don't know, Alaric was very anti-magic, because we also saw he was very, like, against witches, like, using magic. Like, I always get defensive and offensive mixed up. I think it's offensive magic, where it, like, it hurts the other person and not just like in defense. Okay, it probably is offensive. Offensive magic. Anyways, like he didn't even want the witches to learn that kind of magic in the first place. Like even like I remember Josie saying that, and she says that the curriculum needs to evolve, but she was so right about. Josie was the one who studied magic more. Lizzie couldn't study magic because she was told that magic got her into those situations in the first place. So Josie automatically has the upper hand in that situation because she doesn't have bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder like Lizzie does. So she had an upper hand. She had an advantage. And Lizzie was so afraid of using magic like more than just for like simple things because she believed that it would trigger her episodes. So it's like, you know, it really bothers me because even in season 4, after we saw a lot more of what Lizzie's capable of with her magic and her abilities, people still like to say that, oh, one, she's a weaker twin, or two, she's just like not good at magic, which isn't entirely true because she has the opportunity and she knows how to use spells. She knows how to work them. She knows how it functions. Not that she doesn't know how to, it's just that she doesn't do it as much as Josie or Hope. They are constantly using magic because they're constantly the ones needing it the most. Lizzie doesn't care for it. I mean, it's not much she doesn't care for it. I mean, she definitely doesn't. But, like, it's also a matter of if she uses it, she's going to feel like it's going to trigger an episode or something. You know what I mean? So, it's just, like, it's not really her fault. You know what I mean? I need to stop saying that. I'm sorry. But, anyways. There was something else that I wanted to bring up, but I can't exactly remember what it was. Give me a second. Okay, so I kind of want to divert from... Is that even the right word? I kind of want to move on from everything that I was just talking about. And I really want to talk about lesbian Lizzie. Now, I know a lot of people don't think Lizzie would be a lesbian because she's been with men before. But I'd also like to remind the class, that women can realize they're lesbian after dating men. You know, there have been a lot of lesbians who dated men before they realized that they were lesbians. You know, like, it's a very common thing, actually, especially when we live in a heteronormative society where women, especially women a lot more, where they constantly feel like they have to submit to the patriarchy in order to fit in order to feel like they have a voice or like they have a choice in anything that they do. So it's like, it isn't exactly a valid reason. Like, oh, well, Lizzie Saltzman has been with men, so that means that she's not a lesbian. I beg to differ. I am a lesbian myself, and I have dated a man before who honestly helped me realize that I was lesbian in the first place, which is probably an insult in some way, but we're not going to talk about that. But anyways, I just want to say that I think Lizzie needed the opposite of a, like, stereotypical man. And I know we can bring up MG and how he doesn't fit that role anyways. But MG and Lizzie did not have romantic feelings for him. She did not have a crush on him. She did not have anything for him for, like, at least 2 to 3 seasons. And even when she started liking him in season 2 and season 3, she started liking him because he was what she needed. He was the type of person she needed personality-wise. She needed someone to care about her despite what she might think are her flaws and all these bad things that she thinks about herself. She needed someone to love her despite all of that. And with the rest of the school hating her, she didn't really have any options, you know? Of course, I am going to talk about why I think Hope was the better love interest. And of course, it's a little biased because I'm a Hizzie, but we'll get into why later on. But Lizzie, she didn't really have many options if you think about it. You know, no one else really liked her like that, like how MG liked her. Because obviously everyone's gonna have a crush on Lizzie because she's the popular girl in this school. Like, everyone knows who she is. Everyone either loves her or hates her, but I mean, there was a lot of hatred and fear mostly. But so it's like she didn't really, you know, she didn't really have much of a choice, or at least in her mind, she didn't really have much of a choice. However, if she goes to college, which she probably will, her and MG are probably going to break up because she's going to see how, like, what the type of person she actually needs and what it's like to actually be in love and not force yourself to be in love because you feel like no one else is going to love you. You know what I mean? So it's like she settles for men because she doesn't think she deserves more. You know, and it's not like, oh, like, men are the worst thing ever. It's like the type of men she settles for aren't really good enough. Like, not saying that she's like the best person ever, although I do think that, but like, what she needed and what she got were two different things, you know? Like, she needed real love. She needed, like, someone to love her the way she loved Hope. You know, that's why I'm going to talk about why I think Hope is a better love interest. Even if it meant that all the traits Hope had would have been in a different character, in a different girl. But Hope was like the ideal lover for Lizzie, like what she needed. But anyways, we'll get into that in a second. I think that, honestly, and there are so many different forms, and this is a trigger warning for anyone who struggles with self-harm. But since Lizzie has done that before, I feel like I should also address it really quick. Lizzie hurts herself in more than just physically. And anyone, especially because I've been told this in therapy too, self-harm is so much more than just hurting yourself physically. Like, this can come in so many different ways. Like, this could manifest like in your relationships, in your like the way you treat yourself, all these different types of things. It can manifest in so many ways, and no one's ever really like free from that unless you're like actively aware of what you're doing and how it's hurting you. But I feel like the way she forced herself to be with MG, and honestly any other man that she had a crush on, especially Sebastian, but I feel like that's also a different situation, which we'll get into that in a second. But it was, honestly, I wouldn't say it's a form of self-harm. However, it does kind of fall into that. But it was definitely, I dropped the microphone. Anyways, it was definitely like, it felt like a punishment for her. And I know it's like bad to say that like being with a man is like a punishment, but like, you know, anyways, it felt like she was punishing herself, like genuinely. It felt like she didn't feel like she deserved more, so this is what she settled for. And I know a lot of people ship Mizzie, but I don't agree with that ship, and I'll get into that. It's not really much more to say about that ship, and because there is going to be an episode where I talk about all the ships I don't like or don't ship. But anyways, yeah, that's the point. It definitely feels like she didn't think she deserved more, and so she settled. But I feel like when she gets into college, I genuinely, a lot of people probably agree with me, especially people who are already in college. College will, not even just college, but like in that age where you're like 18 and older, especially 18, early 20s, and kind of mid 20s, those ages are like where you're really starting to realize like, oh, high school really wasn't everything. Like, there's so much more beyond high school. And it's just like, I feel like that's what Lizzie needs. I feel like Lizzie needs to leave the Salvatore school and explore who she is. She needs to pull a Josie. Basically is what I'm saying. I'm so sorry to the Josie stands. That was probably like a heartbreak for you right there. But she needs to pull a Josie. I feel like her and Josie needed that the most. I think the school, the people, and Alaric were the problem. I don't think Lizzie and Josie would have struggled through a lot of the things that they went through in Legacies if they had just left the Salvatore school, to be honest. Or just set the whole place on fire. Kidding. Sort of. But anyways, I just feel like it would have changed her life in so many ways if she had just left the school and she explored things beyond the school, and it would have helped her come to who she really is. And I think she would have been a hero. I think she would have been the hero she always wanted to be if she had just left the school, because the school is never going to accept her as a hero. They were never going to acknowledge all the good she's done for them and be able to appreciate her for it. So there was just no way that she would have gotten the happy ending she deserved at the Salvatore school. She needed a fresh start. She needed a clean slate. That is what she needed. And it's not what she got. And honestly, it breaks my heart to think about, because the Salvatore school did not deserve Lizzie Saltzman. And let me repeat that. The Salvatore school did not deserve Lizzie Saltzman, especially not the Legacies writers. It's just, it's so frustrating to think about. And I don't think they deserved Hope Michelson either, but I mean, this isn't about her. But it's just so disappointing because the writers did her so dirty. And look, I feel like if the writers had done it right, the Salvatore school maybe would have been able to acknowledge all the good Lizzie's done, and then maybe Lizzie would have been a hero. But they didn't write it that way. They intentionally and were actively seeking to make Lizzie be the opposite of a hero, even if it's an anti-hero or whatever. Or even just, I don't know, a villain, I guess. But I mean, I don't think she even fit that narrative either, because she wasn't evil enough to be a villain. Although I wholeheartedly agree with everyone who thinks that Lizzie Saltzman should have been a villain instead, because I personally believe that she should have just off the entire school. To be honest, I think that's what they deserved. Maybe not Pedro. Like that's her son. That's her son right there. Like, Pedro was her baby, quite literally. I mean, not quite literally, but you know what I mean. Anyways, I want to divert again. I want to switch subjects and talk about why I think Hope Michelson is the ideal lover for Lizzie. Now, aside from their storyline and how absolutely insane it is, and I talked about this in the last episode, like about their development and stuff like that. So if you want to watch that episode, if you haven't already, I recommend you go watch that to understand more about why I feel this way. But Hope and Lizzie, they have so much history. Their parents were together, sort of, kind of. I mean, they had a whole thing. Like, they just have a lot of history. You know, they were enemies. They became best friends. And, you know, like I said, they have a lot of history. And I feel like the storyline, the plot was there. Even though a lot of people see them as sisters, which is very weird and a little homophobic. And no, it does not matter if you ship Hizzie or any other Hope or any other sapphic ship. You could still be homophobic, because in case a lot of you did not know, calling a sapphic ship sisters is very homophobic. It has been done to a lot of lesbians, bisexuals, pansexuals, or any other sapphic. as a way to be, like, as an insult, you know? And it's very, 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 very homophobic. And honestly, just petty in general. If you don't want people to say that about your shit, don't say it about other people's. Okay? Sorry. Just wanted to say that. I just wanted to get that out the way. Anyways, the plot, the history, the chemistry, it was all there. They had it all. But most importantly, and trigger warning for anyone who does not like Landon, the way Hope loved Landon is how I feel Lizzie should have been loved, you know? And I think part of the reason why Hope was even, actually, we're not going to get into that. We're going to get into that in her episode, which will be like 2 weeks from now, because there is a filler episode in between character episodes, or character-centric episodes. Anyways, like the way, like the obsessive, I mean, it was obsessive, and just the way she loved him in general was how Lizzie needed to be loved. And she said that in season 4. I mean, Narita talked about this scene, and I can play it right now if I don't forget. But that was exactly what she needed. She needed that kind of love. She needed that she needed it, but she also needed to learn how to love herself first. However, I know a lot of people disagree with this concept, or a lot of people agree with this concept that you need to learn how to love yourself first before you get into a relationship. There are instances where your partner can help you realize a lot of the things about you that you would have never realized, because you can't really see yourself the way other people see you. And it can be the kind of confidence boost that Lizzie really needed. She needed to know that people didn't just see her for all like the bad things that she does, or even though that's not really a lot, it's just people are dramatic about the way she acts. But anyways, ew, why did I say it like that? Anyways, so she needed to know that people saw the good in her and they didn't just see all the bad. So Hope, she was, I'm not gonna lie, she was a bit delusional about Landon, Don't get me wrong, their feelings were mutual. They both loved each other, and that was very obvious and prominent. However, and we're not going to get into Hope's abandonment issues and why that played a role in her and Landon not ever, like, genuinely breaking up, up until, like, season 4, I think. We'll get into that. We'll get into all that psychological stuff in her episode. But she was very obsessive over him, very, like, delusional, like, oh, if I just protect him, he'll never die, blah, 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 whatever. Lizzie needs that kind of energy, to be honest. I mean, in a healthy way. Like, not in the obsessive, unhealthy, needs to go back to therapy kind of way that Hope did with Landon. But, like, the general idea of it is what Lizzie needed. And it's so sad that she never really got that, because even with MG, it's not really the same. Like, he isn't really, like, the type of person that Lizzie needed to be with. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great character, but he doesn't really know how to take no for an answer, and he's basically, and I know a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but he kind of reminds me of Landon, guys. Like, it's not, I mean, he's way better than Landon, but, like, he reminds me of Landon when it comes to Lizzie. As a character, he reminds me of Stefan. But MG, just, he wasn't the right person for Lizzie. And it just feels like wrong person, right time type of thing. So it's like Lizzie needed that type of relationship, sort of. But it was the wrong person, but at the right time. You know what I mean? Anyways, wow, I really need to find a new phrase to say, because I say that a lot. Sorry. Anyways, And it's very upsetting because by the time Lizzie actually needed a relationship, or I guess you don't really need a relationship, but where she actually needed that kind of love because she's never really felt it before, and she needed that kind of, I guess, confidence boost, but also that security, she never really got it. And it's very sad because you can see the buildup of her in Hope in season 4 and how Lizzie never giving up on Hope is like all she's ever wanted. I mean, she obviously had her little villain era, but like after she died, quite literally, and came back to life, she like refused to give up on Hope. And okay, hold on, I'm getting a phone call, so let me just turn my phone around because I'm gonna get distracted. Anyways, she wanted not necessarily Hope to reciprocate the same energy, although obviously she did want that. But I also think it was a matter of oh my god, I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted. That phone call really like distracted me so much that my brain is like all over the place now. But she just wanted that kind of energy in general. She wanted someone to never give up on her, despite all of her like bad moments or like moments that she perceives as bad. And like I said, like I keep saying, she never really got that, and it's so frustrating and it's so sad. And Legacies had so much potential with her character. She had the potential to be like Caroline. I mean, in her own way, of course. And they just kind of fucked it up. And it's really sad because she could have been such a great character. And her lesbian, like, coming out storyline would have been so good and helpful to anyone struggling with their sexuality. Especially, obviously, especially to lesbians all over, because I'm also a lesbian. So I really can see how much that would have helped us if we had gotten that, especially because of Legacy's fan base is a bit younger, sort of. I mean, when the show first came out. So we kind of like grew up with it a little bit, especially me, because I was like 14 when I first came across it. And it just would have been so helpful to the lesbians, and maybe then people wouldn't have hated Lizzie as much as they did, which is absolutely insane how anyone could even hate her in the first place. But I mean, I get hating her in season 1, especially if you just don't have the kind of skills necessary to be able to understand her character. A lot of people understand the concept of media literacy, but it's very common to hate Lizzie in season 1, just like how it's common to hate Caroline in season 1. But it's just there's just so much more to her character than people try to like assign to her, like, oh, she's this person just because she is this way. You know what I mean? Like she has no redemption, like she has no redeeming qualities whatsoever, and I just don't think that's true at all. But can't change the way people think. I just hope that if anyone who's not a Lizzie stan or doesn't stan her as much can listen to this episode and be like, oh, she's actually not so bad. She's a really great character. She's a really great girl, and a lot of people should realize that, because I feel like she could help so many people if you guys just gave her the chance. She helped me a lot, and I'm gonna say really quick that I always get so frustrated when people I talk to, like my friends and stuff, when they hate on Lizzie. Because especially, and I find it so funny how a lot of the people who hate Lizzie have a lot of the qualities that they dislike in her, which is absolutely hilarious, because I've seen a lot of people, especially on Twitter, where I have a specific person in mind who I really don't like, but we're not gonna talk about that. They have like the way that they talk, the way that they act, the way that they treat Lizzie, like all the hate and stuff, like that's Lizzie on a good day, I mean, that's not true, but like that's Lizzie on a regular day. And I don't think they realize how similar they are to Lizzie. And it's so funny because it's like, wow, you might need to go to therapy for that, because it sounds like you're projecting. Like, it really does. And I don't know. It's just, Lizzie's such a relatable character that when people hate on her, it's just like, y'all, you all need to go back to therapy. Genuinely. Like, there's things that you need to resolve. And I'm very, like, spiritual. So I wholeheartedly believe that a lot of the times, and this isn't always the case, especially in, like, very, like, bad situations, but, like, a lot of the times we come across people and characters and TV shows and movies and stuff like that that are very crucial into understanding who we are as people. And as, like, if we get specific, like, with people and characters, a lot of the traits that they have that we don't like or that we overly love is either a trait that we already have and dislike, or a trait that we would like to have but can't because of trauma or because of any other, like, factor that might be, like, hindering that ability. And I'm overly self-aware of a lot of my bad traits or qualities and all these other things that I need to be aware of to help better myself, because I've been in a similar situation with Lizzie, like where Lizzie was, with my family not necessarily seeing me as, like, a good person. Like, they generally think that I'm very cold-hearted, which, you know, I can come across that way sometimes. But that's mostly in self-defense. Like, the same way Lizzie is, like, very, like, defensive when people, like, hurt her and stuff. Like, I'm the exact same way. Which is why I keep saying that Lizzie's such a relatable character, and I feel like a lot of girls, especially young girls, could relate to her and find some kind of comfort in her if they gave her the chance. And I just think that people are missing out. People who don't like Lizzie are missing out, because she could have helped you so much and you're just choosing to hate on her. Which, I mean, everyone is allowed to have their own personal opinions and have their own favorite characters. But at the same time, I know a lot of people who hate on Lizzie and love characters who are either just like her or even worse. And it just feels hypocritical, because it's like, some of y'all do not know what you're, like you guys generally don't know what you're doing sometimes. And it's just like, you need to hold all the characters at the same, like, standard. I mean, they're not real people, so it doesn't really matter. But, like, it's just hypocritical, because when you go into an argument and then you wonder why someone is bringing up another character that you like in a conversation about a character you hate, it's just very, like, you kind of set yourself up for that one, you know what I mean? But anyways, as I was saying, Lizzie's a great character, and I feel horrible thinking about how badly they did her character and how she deserves so much better, a much better ending. And it's so sad that we will probably never get that, because the writers suck and Legacies is canceled, and it's so sad. But yeah, anyways, guys, I think that's all I'm going to talk about for today. Wait, let me check really quick my notes, because I have a lot. Oh, I forgot something. I forgot two things. Okay. I lied, guys. This is not the end of the episode. I want to talk about Heretic Lizzie and how becoming a heretic, like, changed the direction of her life. Like, that, like, being a heretic was what she needed from the jump. And genuinely, I don't know how or why the writers waited so long to make her a heretic, especially with, like, Hope being a tribe too. Like, I don't know why they waited so long for that. Like, I genuinely believe that it should have happened like this. I think season 1 should have been like Dark Josie era, or it should have been leading up to season 2 and her dark, like it being the actual Dark Josie era. And then season 3 would have been Try Red Hope. At the end of season 3, Lizzie dies. Season 4, Lizzie's a heretic. First half is her navigating that. Second half is No Humanity Lizzie. And the very end is like a conclusion episode or series of like a few different episodes for her, where she's kind of coming to the conclusion where it's like, oh, this is not right, blah blah blah, whatever. Like the kind of closure she needed. You know, I think all the 3 main girls should have had their own season, which Josie and Hope already had that, and it bothers me that Lizzie never really got to have that. You can count season 1, but even then they made her character development all about Josie, which was very unfair. But anyways, and it's just like, it's not fair because the other 2 girls got to have their own like seasons or like storylines or whatever, and Lizzie never really got to have that without it revolving around one of them. You know what I mean? And it's just very frustrating. Everything is so frustrating because I hate this stupid show, which is funny because I have a whole podcast for it. But anyways, I want to bring up another scene where Lizzie is talking about how she will never really get to, how she feels like she will never get the moment that Caroline got when she became a vampire, where it like changed her life and put her life back on course or whatever. And then later on in the episode, Caroline sent her, I think it was in that same episode, Caroline sent her a letter where it's like, your life keeps going, your life doesn't stop, blah, 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 whatever. You know, I don't really remember the letter, but, oh my god, I think it's so crazy. And I'm going to break everyone's hearts really quick. How Lizzie got to read Caroline's letter, but Caroline never got to read her mom's letter. Like, that's so, oh my god. Anyways, that parallel gets me every time. But anyways, Lizzie never felt like she was ever going to get that chance to like be a better person. Like, she genuinely felt like becoming a vampire is the only way she could be a better person. Like, she literally felt like she needed to die in order to achieve, like, in order to be the person everyone wanted her to be, which is so sad. So sad. Because, I don't know, it's so heartbreaking to think about. Because why, like, she literally wanted to die. Like, they didn't even consider Josie being the one to become a heretic to like avoid the merge. It was just Lizzie. Like, oh yeah, she needs to die. Like, damn, okay. I mean, obviously, like, it fits her character so much more, but it's just so sad because she felt like she needed to die and become a vampire in order to feel like it was the only way she could be a good person. You know? I don't know. It's just so heartbreaking to think about. But anyways, becoming a heretic, I feel like it genuinely changed her life. And I really wish we would have gotten at least one more season to see exactly how that would have affected her in a way where it's like, oh, they're not constantly like fighting for their lives. You know what I mean? Like, she needed to be able to like sit back and sit with her new life, because she generally, like, she has a whole new life now because she died, became a heretic, and everything is so different, you know, like the smells, the hearing, I mean, the sounds or whatever, like everything is so different as a vampire. And we never really got to see her navigate that. Like, we saw her get to navigate like compulsion and like hearing, but it wasn't fully, like, it wasn't fleshed out properly, like it wasn't written properly. Which is why I have beef with the big characters, with the writers. And I feel like they should have definitely, and like in season 5, if there was ever a season 5, they definitely it should have been Lizzie's season in season 5. And I would have loved to see No Humanity Lizzie. I genuinely feel like she needs to turn it off to really recognize, and I talked about this in the last episode. So like I said, if you haven't watched the last episode, I highly recommend you watch it. But anyways, I genuinely believe Lizzie needed to lose her humanity to be able to separate herself from her emotions and recognize everything that was actually wrong, how big of a problem it was, whether it was small or big, and how she perceived it to be, and how majority of the time the problems she had weren't exactly her fault or out of control, or she couldn't have done anything to begin with. You know what I mean? And she just needed to shut off her humanity. Like, genuinely. Like, it's not like, oh, she needs to just shut it off to, like, stop feeling pain, although that would be really nice for her, because it would be really nice. I mean, I feel like she would think it would be really nice to, like, not have to feel anything, especially when she feels so much. She feels so many emotions. Like, all of her emotions she feels at an intensity, especially love, which we see when she literally sacrificed herself for hope. But anyways, it's not like that. Like, it's not like, oh, she needs to turn off her humanity so she can get a break from her emotions. However, that is part of the reason, but it's not the whole reason. She just needs to be able to separate herself from her emotions to see how big her problems are or how small they are, and realize what she actually deserves or what she actually wants or what she needs. She needed to separate herself from all of that in order to understand herself better, because she was constantly worried about what other people think, what other people felt, how her feelings were affecting other people and not how they were affecting herself. And it's like the word I keep using, it is so frustrating to think about, because she had so much potential and the writers just fucked that up. And you know what? It's expected. Like, they literally thought, especially Jolie Pleck, I don't know what she was thinking, but I remember her making a tweet about how they wrote Legacies differently because they wanted to explore a different route. You could have done that with a different show. Like, if you really wanted to have monster hunters, could have made a show called, like, Monster Hunters. You didn't have to get a show of an ongoing franchise that has absolutely no relation to monsters whatsoever. Like, none. It was literally just the same three species: vampires, witches, werewolves. You did not have to add in monsters and gods into the mix to try something new. You could try something new with a completely different show. Start from scratch. Start off with something else. Other characters, other actors. Like, you didn't have to do all that. Like, there was no point. But anyways, there is something else that I want to talk about. I want to talk about Lizzie Saltzman's futures now that she's free from the writers. I think that, and this is how I see Lizzie Saltzman's future. I think that when she graduates from the Salvatore School, she's going to go to college far away. She's going to leave Mystic Falls. She's going to leave. Honestly, I'd support her if she left the entire state, or the entire city at least. She's going to leave. Maybe she'd study abroad. Or maybe I don't know. Who knows where she would study. But she would go off to college, meet some new friends. They are more understanding of her feelings. They can assert boundaries, basically healthy friends that she needed. Maybe her and Hope can go together, I would have supported that. Maybe they can go to the same college, be accepted to the same college, blah, 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 whatever. They meet new friends, they meet these people, and they're like, oh, this is, like, so much more different from what we experienced in high school and, like, honestly, just growing up in general for them. Like, this is a breath of fresh air. And then, once they graduated, maybe Lizzie could be a teacher. Maybe she could be headmistress at the Salvatore School. And when she does, when she returns back to the Salvatore School, she fixes everything. Like, she is a better headmaster than Alaric ever was. She does things for the school that, like, for the students and, like, just anybody at the school who didn't get to, like, anybody, gosh, any of the students who might be struggling through the same thing she went through, she'd put things in place to avoid that to ever happen again. She would just make things so much better. But she needs to leave, like I said before, she needs to leave to figure out who she is, what she wants to do, how she even wants to be a hero, because honestly, I don't think she'll ever let that dream go. But how she wants to be a hero, who she wants to save. If she does want to save the Salvatore School, she can go back. Once she realizes who she is, the type of person she wants to be, or blah, 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 whatever, everything that she needs to have that character development outside of the school in order to be able to come back and fix the things that her father messed up. And I feel like that would heal so many things for her, and honestly for the whole school as a whole. And Hope can be a teacher. And oh, that would be so cute. If anyone hasn't read the Hizzie Teachers fic, I highly recommend you do. I haven't read it actually, but we're not gonna talk about that. But I've seen so many spoilers and I'm just like, oh, I basically already know what happens. Anyways, that would be so cute actually. And they can protect the school for as long as they want to. You know, of course, that's always going to be their home. I just think that they need to leave the nest to realize how much they love it and how much they miss it. But also to realize that the school isn't their whole life, and that they have their own personal lives. They have their own goals and wants and needs, and they need to separate themselves from the school in order to realize that. So, yeah, that's honestly, I think that's all. I've been rambling and yapping for so long now that if I say any more, I feel like everyone's gonna hate me. They're gonna be like, why are you still talking? I don't know, okay? But yeah, I just think that that's what they need. And now that they are free from the legacies writers, I'm hoping, because I genuinely believe, and this, you're probably gonna think I'm crazy for this, but I genuinely believe that there's like parallel universes where they actually exist and stuff. And I may be a little delusional, but hypothetically, if there is, I hope that they are happy and free from the bad writing, and I hope that they realize and are able to grow and find out what they really need, find out who they really are, and find out what matters to them, you know? Because, I don't know, that's just it. I love them so much, especially Lizzie. I love Lizzie so much, and it hurts that she never really got that kind of closure. But I'm praying and hoping and manifesting that in another universe where they actually exist, if they do, which they probably don't, but you know, I'm being delusional, like I said, that they got the happy ending that they deserved. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for listening and sitting with me through this entire episode, despite how distracted and how slow I talk sometimes. It takes me a minute to process my thoughts, okay? Anyways, thank you guys so much, and thank you guys so much for the support too. You guys are so amazing. I love you all so much. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and opinions, especially if you're watching this on YouTube. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, or tweet hashtag the Hizzie Diaries on Twitter as you're watching, or just your final thoughts. And let me know what you guys think, because I love to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions on everything. And yeah, thank you guys so much, and I love you all, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, or morning, or night, or whatever. But yeah, I love you guys so much.